Talia, live there with a witness, and it is so just alarming to hear from witnesses tonight. We should let you know that the mayor has already advised individuals to please stay away from the area of Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. So this is a traffic alert tonight that the boulevard tonight closed between Ron Street and Tyson Avenue. So keep that in mind. And at this point, no one should be headed in that direction.
Yeah, that was, as we know, the boulevard is a very long thoroughfare used by thousands, tens of thousands of people throughout the day. And so we know that this is an area that people rely on to make their moves in and around the city. Tonight, though, that is not the case. You're being asked to stay out of Northeast Philadelphia along the Roosevelt Boulevard in that area. We're taking a live look now at our city leaders and officials. I see Adam Teal, the managing director. I see Deputy Commissioner John Stanford. And there's the governor in the hat and glasses, Governor Josh Shapiro. And also members from Mayor Sherelle Parker's office, Deputy Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel.
Mayor Sherelle Parker also there.
And also Mayor Sherelle Parker. We, of course, have been getting updates. We've had one from city officials so far, and it looks as if they're ready now to speak once again, and the governor is joining.
Still an active incident. Want to thank you all again for joining us. I want to give a quick recap of the information we shared earlier, and then we will give you some additional facts. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue, and it did occur shortly after 6 p.m. Again, we have no reports on the number of fatalities. So we are asking everyone for their thoughts and prayers for all who may have been impacted and affected by this tragedy. Several dwellings and vehicles were also impacted. And so we are urging people, particularly those families who live in the surrounding area, to please stay home if possible. If you see any debris, and those who are conducting the investigations have repeated consistently, please do not touch anything because it is still an active investigation. Just call 911, please, if you see anything. Investigators and all of our federal, state, and local partners are working as expeditiously as possible during this very difficult time. New information that we want to share with you, that shelter is now available at the Samuel Fells High School located at 5500 Langdon Street. Samuel Fells High School, 5500 Langdon Street. If anyone has been impacted and you need shelter and support, it is readily available for you. In terms of our federal and state partners, I want to say a special thank you to the NTSB. They are here on site now. The FAA, the Pennsylvania State Police, Pennsylvania DEP, of course, our police and fire departments, and OEM. I am here with Governor Shapiro. We've been in constant contact since it started. You'll be hearing from him shortly. But I also want to say a special thank you to our additional partners who we have spoken with, our federal leaders, U.S. Senators Fetterman and McCormick. Thank you so very much. All hands on deck. They wanted to make sure any and everything that we needed from the federal government, those supports and services are available. Congressman Evans, Boyle, and Scanlon, our congressional delegation, a special thank you to each of you for your support. I also need to affirm that locally here, Senator Joe Picozzi, Rep. Solomon, Reps. Nielsen, Doherty, who represents this area, and Bellman, Commissioner Dealey, and Council Member Driscoll was present. If there was ever a time when we needed to affirm what the One Philly philosophy means, the time is now. And I'm very proud about how our federal, state, and all of our local partners are working hard to deal with this tragedy. I now want to turn it over to our governor and to say thank you, Governor, for your support and being here with us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. The mayor preaches about one Philly. She talks about a unified approach to governing every day. What you're seeing here is a unified response to an awful aviation disaster. For as awful as that aviation disaster was, tonight we also saw the best of Philly. We saw neighbor helping neighbor. We saw Pennsylvanians looking out for one another. I want to reaffirm the comments the mayor said about all of the different agencies working together. And I want to especially thank and salute Philly Fire and Philly Police, who did an extraordinary job this evening. We know that there will be loss in this region, and we want to offer our thoughts and our serious prayers for those who are grieving at this moment. The mayor knows, and I want you all to know, that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania stands firmly with our partners in the city. We have, at the request of Commissioner Bethel, 45 state troopers who are on the ground right here in Northeast Philly. We have 25 members of our PennDOT team who are here right now. We have members of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Authority who are here, including our director, Randy Padfield, who joins me behind here. We also have members of DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, who are here to make sure that any hazardous materials are addressed. And as you heard the mayor reference, we're joined by several state representatives and senators. I want to thank them. They will make sure that whatever is needed for this community gets to this community. I also spoke earlier this evening with the United States Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Duffy, who offered his full support to Northeast Philly. And as the mayor alluded to, he has dispatched 4 members of the FAA to Philly, and there are 4 members of NTSB on their way as well. We have all the resources that we need. And again, as the mayor always says, one Philly, we are unified in our approach to deal with this emergency. And again, I'll just end by sharing my prayers, the prayers of my wife, Lori, our First Lady, and on behalf of 13 million Pennsylvanians, we are all here for Northeast Philly tonight in this very, very difficult moment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all. When we have additional information to report, we will come back and give another briefing. But now we want to let our federal, state, and local partners do their jobs and go to work. We'll report back to you when we have more information. Thank you all so very much for your patience and understanding.
Mayor Sherrill Parker, joined by Governor Josh Shapiro and other city and state officials there at the podium microphone, a makeshift microphone area that they've put together so that they can keep the public informed. That's just at a gas station right near there in Northeast Philadelphia, where officials are gathering on this rainy, cold night because of this incident.
And we know this is a mass joint effort. The mayor alluding to the different agencies that are there, the National Transportation Safety Board, the FAA, State Police, Philadelphia PD, and of course, Fire Department. And you heard the governor saying that this is a unified response to an awful aviation situation. He's saying we are seeing a Philly response, neighbors helping neighbors, and people coming together in this time of tragedy and need. And the mayor alluding to.
All right, I'm just going to mute that a minute. I'm going to show you guys. Look at all this. Hold on a minute.
my God.
Yeah, man, she's still hanging. Déjale comida a los perros.
Oh, shit.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Oh my God! Oh my God! La ilaha illallah! There's a plane, bro!
Isn't that insane? What is going on?
Again tonight that at this point we do not know the number of fatalities, but we do know the 6 individuals on that aircraft that went down did not make it. We're learning tonight that those on board were 4 crew members, a pediatric patient, and 1 other person believed to be a family member of that patient. This happening a little after 6 when that aircraft, that Learjet 55, goes down there in Northeast Philadelphia, erupting in that massive fireball there. Witnesses describing what they saw, what they heard, saying that the night sky lit up as a result of that explosion. We know buildings were on fire, cars were on fire. Sadly, we saw people walking in that area in flames.
The Learjet 55, it crashed just after 6 o'clock, and we know that it departed from the airport in Northeast Philadelphia there. The hope was for this Learjet, which was on a medical assignment, to make its way to an airport in Missouri. What we know is that did not happen. The plane was only in the air for a short amount of time before it crashed. And so we've been getting the images from our viewers all night since this happened. And the images, of course, have been devastating, showing all of the fire and the plane crash, of course, right after it happened. You're watching Action News at 10 on PHL 17. We're also simulcasting on 6ABC. I'm Shari Williams alongside Gray Hall. This is our continuing coverage here on Action News in regards to the breaking news. This Learjet 55 that crashed just after 6 o'clock in Northeast Philadelphia. We've now been on the air continuously just over 3 hours covering this breaking news.
And as you know, this is a mass effort and response effort by first responders across this state. The mayor and the governor on scene there wrapping up a presser not that long ago. This, of course, discussing this awful tragedy that unfolded right there in Northeast Philadelphia. That Learjet 55 crashing tonight a little after 6. You can hear in the background as we watch this piece of video a woman saying, "Oh my God, oh no, oh no." We know tonight 6 people were on this aircraft, 4 crew members, a pediatric patient, and another person believed to be the family member of that patient. We do not know how many lives were lost tonight, but we know lives were lost. This happening just miles away from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. That plane set to be in the air for roughly some 30 seconds before it went down in Northeast Philadelphia, erupting in that fireball.
The actual crash site tonight, we know, is pretty large. Philadelphia police are doing their best now to hold the scene and create a perimeter. It did take about some 130 to 150 firefighters from the Philadelphia Fire Department to respond to this and to get the fires under control. There were numerous hot spots. Debris was flying and also fire was flying as a result of this crash, followed by an explosion that followed from the crash itself. The fire department did its job to get this perimeter calm and under control. We now know that the NTSB is on the ground. The governor, Josh Shapiro, has traveled to be here in Philadelphia tonight to be with our city officials because this is a gripping event. As he called it, an awful aviation disaster. But we are seeing the best of Philly, and Pennsylvanians are looking out for one another.
We switch now to Action News reporter Annie McCormick, who is at the Northeast Philadelphia Airport, where that ground stop, I imagine, Annie, is still in place.
It is still in place, and that ground stop is specifically because of the plane crash. It seems obvious, however, I'm saying that because of the inclement weather. It was incredibly foggy. There was also a lot of rain as well. Now, the Jet Rescue Air Ambulance took off from here a little bit after 6 o'clock, and according to the company who did release a statement, it crashed at 6:25 at the Boulevard and Cottman. On board 6 people, the company saying that included 4 crew members, an escort, and also a pediatric patient. In regards to the 4 crew members, my sources are telling me it was 2 pilots and 2 healthcare professionals. Either they were medics, nurses, or doctors, or interchangeable. And additionally, the pediatric patient, the escort with the pediatric patient, was in fact a family member. So you just look in that video there of the FAA, you just heard in that press conference, Governor Shapiro talk about how 4 members of the NTSB are on scene, 4 members of the FAA are on scene. We were here when they began arriving here to Atlantic Aviation. Atlantic Aviation hasn't confirmed that the flight left here. However, we have heard from sources that the flight did take off from runway 24 here at Northeast Airport, again, just a little after 6 o'clock. But we started to see federal investigators arrive here. Of course, the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, is a federal agency, an independent federal agency. And so they are going to be tasked with gathering the evidence and going through, it's going to be a very long process in order to get everything together, since the square footage alone is huge from the amount of debris that is spread over that area of Northeast Philadelphia, which is probably one of the busiest areas of the city in regards to the commercial businesses, residences, and also just so much traffic. Cottman Avenue is so busy, the boulevard, all of that traffic at that time. And of course, their initial response had to do with making sure everybody was okay, tending to people that were injured. So their first approach when regards to our first responders isn't necessarily to worry about collecting the debris. So there's a number of things that they've already been out here to look at. In regards to the tower, we know we did see Philadelphia police here. That's my voice actually just pointing out that the FAA was here when that video was rolling. But when they initially got out here, Philadelphia police were here, and we do know that there were detectives that were in the tower, and we're told that at least one federal investigator was there as well. The information they're gathering there is sort of the nuts and bolts information that needs to be gathered. That includes the final transmissions, that includes final communication between the tower and between the pilot, whether there was any communication. I do not know at this time. When you look at those apps, which were the flight tracker apps, you could see that it was just a short distance from this airport. It's so close to where the Boulevard and Cottman is, that it looks like the plane was only in the air for a very brief amount of time. Now, according to the flight tracker apps, this plane was headed towards Springfield, Missouri. This is a Learjet. And so I am not an aviation expert, so I don't know if this is the type of jet that needs to be refueled at some point, depending on where.
Okay, we're going to go to a different news channel. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think about what's going on here.
Be information to share, and we'll obviously bring that to you. And right now you can see some of these engines coming through. This is all hands are on deck right now. And this not only impacts obviously the people that live here, it impacts these first responders. to see some of the looks in their faces and their eyes right now as they're taking everything in of what has happened here. Everyone is at a place right now where they're just, they're processing what's going on. But to go back to what our governor said, and I think this is the silver lining in all of this right now: neighbors helping neighbors. We have to show up. We have to show out. We have to be with with each other right now, and provide that support. And again, I just want to echo this before I throw it back to you guys. What Mayor Parker said: if you don't need to be here, if you don't live here, if you have been affected here, you don't need to be here. You need to let first responders, officials do what they have to do right now as they investigate and determine, what happened and how they can help people here. Guys.
Josh, I'm sure many of those first responders, male and female, are probably from that area. Right. And when I was growing up, that area, and it's called the Great Northeast. They will rise. They will rise.
All right. And now our Carrie Corrado standing by at another location near the crash site. Carrie, you were saying earlier that some of the emergency personnel has started to disperse from that area. What are you seeing right now?
That's right. And the rain has also let up, which is helping the investigation. But we've also been speaking with a lot of witnesses because keep in mind, a lot of people were here when this happened because they live, work, or were shopping around here. Joining me now is Norman. Norman, thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, it's nice to see you.
You saw the plane in the sky. You saw it coming down. Tell me what you saw.
The first thing you see, like out of nowhere, it's not even like in sight at first. And then out of nowhere, like it's on an angle. You just... And then it just like dropped, like it didn't even drop normally, like it was abnormal. Like you would think for a plane falling, like no, it just straight down. And then like I don't even know how to explain it in words. Like it was just so bad.
So describe to me, did you see like a fireball? A lot of people tell me they saw an explosion.
Like you know how like say like if the U.S. were to drop a nuke on a smaller scale, like that same mushroom cloud, yes, that same big fireball just. And then like everything around it just started catching. Like after a little bit, everybody was nervous running through the streets. I didn't know how to feel. I was just calling people frantically. I'm shaking. I don't even it was a lot to handle. I'm just glad everybody that made it out. I'm so sorry. Like I pay respects to the people that died. Rest in peace to those souls. I heard it was 6 people that were on that plane.
That had to be really hard for you to see. I know you're going through a lot right now. Can you describe to me too, where people were running towards it to try to help? It was like neighbors looking out for neighbors. Is that what you saw?
Yes, it was a couple neighbors that I seen like trying to help other neighbors see what was going on in the area, because there's people that really care about each other over here, especially here. Like I know all of Philly, like people get the wrong picture and stuff. People paint Philly, to be this terrible place. No, like people really do come together over here. This is really a place of brotherly love. I will say that because in a crisis, everybody knows how to get together. Everybody, even through panic, all of that, everybody can get together and everybody can help one another, and that's what's a blessing.
Thank you so much for joining us
and
sharing that. So Yuki, as you heard, neighbors were looking out for neighbors. Everyone was running there to try to help each other out.
That's what it's all about. That young man said it all. Said it all. Carrie, thank you. We're getting our first look at the debris up close. This plane part landed in the Roosevelt Mall parking lot. And you can see the medical symbol that marked the side of the plane just ripped to shreds. Powerful, powerful images. 6 people on that plane, 2 doctors, 2 pilots, a child patient, and a family member. Just over 4 hours ago, going down after leaving the Northeast Philadelphia airport. That picture tells it all.
Yeah, that plane was heading for Missouri. The child, we understand, was being treated here in the Philadelphia area and was eventually going to be making their way back home to Mexico. And so the fact that this happened, it just breaks your heart. And seeing that shred of the airplane there just speaks to the impact when that plane went down. And as that witness Carrie was speaking to, as he described, you see that mushroom ball of fire in the sky just explode after the plane went down there. That piece of the plane, as Yuki, you just said, in the parking lot of the Roosevelt Mall.
And as the mayor said, if you see anything like this, if you're living in that area right now and watching us, If you see anything like this, please just call authorities. They will take care of it. The investigation is well underway. These are all vital pieces of trying to put this tragic story, this tragic puzzle back together of why this happened just over 4 hours ago now. It's now 10:13. The plane, according to a Ring camera video, went down just less than 5 miles from the Northeast Airport after taking off at about 6:07 tonight. And here's the video of what happened from one angle, the plane going down on about a 45-degree angle. And as one witness told us earlier, as you can see right here, the explosion, the mushroom cloud turned night into day.
That's right. And the mayor saying several homes in this densely populated neighborhood of Northeast Philadelphia were impacted, several cars as well. And to your point, Yuki, there are plane parts there. This is a pretty wide debris field, we understand from our reporters on the scene. And the governor is saying that there may also be hazardous materials. So the Office of Emergency Management, they have personnel as well to make sure that people are not getting close to those things. And it's a dangerous situation at this point. So do not touch any of the plane parts or anything that you see debris-wise as related to this crash, as investigators are working to very much in the early stages try to piece this all together.
We were talking about the people on board, and we just learned that the child patient was a little girl, a little girl on the plane.
It's really heartbreaking to hear. It's heartbreaking to hear. She was on board with a family member, 2 doctors, and 2 pilots making their way after she was being treated here in Philadelphia for medical issues, making their way to Missouri before she was eventually going to return home to Mexico.
I think you can see, if you look very closely at the top of the screen there on this Ring camera, that is the exact time that looks like 6:07. Yeah, it is 6:07 when that plane went down. This afternoon, the calls went out at 6:12. Officials were on the scene. We went on the air at 6:25. We've been on the air ever since. And it's going to be a while before we get answers. As Chris Van Cleve from CBS News told us, this could take time, a long time,
right?
Maybe even from 30 days to a year to figure out exactly what happened. Because this was, as he said, an older Lear jet that may or may not have had a flight data recorder on it. Now the task is underway to try to find that data recorder. But first and foremost, take care of anyone who was injured
and to
after
recover,
tonight's crash, and to recover
anybody who may have lost their lives. As the mayor said, they do not have a number as to how many fatalities there may have been. The jet company, though, saying that they cannot, at this time, they told us in a statement, they cannot confirm whether there are any survivors. Right now, they say names will not be released until family members have been notified.
This has been quite a night. Yeah. But as I mentioned, when I was growing up, they called, and they still call it, the Great Northeast. And we saw some shining examples of individuals who ran toward this accident to help people. They saw some things they didn't want to see.
Right.
That's for sure.
Our Carrie Corrado spoke with, I believe it was Carrie who spoke with one of the witnesses who said that he saw a child in a car who had gotten hurt, and he flagged down a police officer in a nearby Dunkin' Donuts location to get that child some help. We do understand that there were people on the ground who were hurt. Temple University confirming that 6 people were treated at the hospital. 3 of them were released. 3 are in fair condition. So that much we know at this point, but still, as investigators are continuing to work the scene and assess the injuries and any possible fatalities, still very much in the early stages of recovering information there on the ground.
And again, you're looking at video that occurred about 3 hours ago when the flames were in full effect, but they have since been put out. And you saw some of the crews, the fire trucks, the engines behind our reporters that were slowly, looked like they were moving away. And now it's time for the NTSB, the FAA, and all the investigators to do their work as this tragic scene unfolds tonight in Northeast Philadelphia.
And to remind our viewers, right now the rain has let up a bit, but earlier on when we were speaking with some of our reporters, it was raining pretty heavily. So that also adding to the challenge for emergency responders on the scene as they were working to figure out and account for people on the ground who may have been hurt. As you're looking at this video from earlier tonight, you can see the fire affecting at least a few homes there. And then also that adjacent parking lot. Again, this is near the Roosevelt Mall, a densely populated area. It's a Friday night. People probably out with their families, returning home from work, sitting down to eat dinner. And to see this outside of your window, we saw that Ring camera video of that man and woman look up in the sky and say, oh my gosh, it's a plane, in disbelief, seeing that fireball in the sky there. Here it is. You see his mouth drop. As he turns and he sees it. And you hear that explosion. Yuki, you were saying you were hearing from someone who's in the neighborhood describing.
The neighbor said their house, it was like an earthquake. Their house just shook. The glass, the windows, it just shook. And you can see from this couple right here, they were getting out, and then you can tell right there, he hears a noise, he turns, and then bang, that happens. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh my, then they immediately go back to where they were. But earlier, the mayor and the governor of Pennsylvania spoke about this incident. Let's play some of that right now.
I want to thank you all again for joining us. I want to give a quick recap of the information we shared earlier, and then we will give you some additional facts. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue, and it did occur shortly after 6 p.m. Again, we have no reports on the number of fatalities. So we are asking everyone for their thoughts and prayers for all who may have been impacted and affected by this tragedy. Several dwellings and vehicles were also impacted. And so we are urging people, particularly those families who live in the surrounding area, to please stay home if possible. If you see any debris, and those who are conducting the investigations have repeated consistently, please do not touch anything because it is still an active investigation. Just call 911, please, if you see anything. Investigators and all of our federal, state, and local partners are working as expeditiously as possible during this very difficult time. New information that we want to share with you, that shelter is now available at the Samuel Fells High School located at 5500 Langdon Street. Samuel Fells High School, 5500 Langdon Street. If anyone has been impacted and you need shelter and support, it is readily available for you. In terms of our federal and state partners, I want to say a special thank you to the NTSB. They are here on site now. The FAA, the Pennsylvania State Police, Pennsylvania DEP, of course, our police and fire departments, and OEM. I am here with Governor Shapiro. We've been in constant contact since it started. You'll be hearing from him shortly. But I also want to say a special thank you to our additional partners who we have spoken with, our federal leaders, U.S. Senators Fetterman and McCormick. Thank you so very much. All hands on deck. They wanted to make sure any and everything that we needed from the federal government, those supports and services are available. Congressman Evans, Boyle, and Scanlon, our congressional delegation, a special thank you to each of you for your support. I also need to affirm that locally here, Senator Joe Picozzi, Rep. Solomon, Reps. Nielsen, Doherty, who represents this area, and Bellman, Commissioner Dealey, and Council Member Driscoll was present. If there was ever a time when we needed to affirm what the One Philly philosophy means, the time is now. And I'm very proud about how our federal, state, and all of our local partners are working hard to deal with this tragedy. I now want to turn it over to our governor and to say thank you, Governor, for your support and being here with us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. The mayor preaches about One Philly. She talks about a unified approach to governing every day. What you're seeing here is a unified response to an awful aviation disaster. For as awful as that aviation disaster was, tonight we also saw the best of Philly. We saw neighbor helping neighbor. we saw Pennsylvanians looking out for one another. I want to reaffirm the comments the mayor said about all of the different agencies working together. And I want to especially thank and salute Philly Fire and Philly Police, who did an extraordinary job this evening. We know that there will be loss in this region, and we want to offer our thoughts and our serious prayers for those who are grieving at this moment. The mayor knows, and I want you all to know, that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania stands firmly with our partners in the city. We have, at the request of Commissioner Bethel, 45 state troopers who are on the ground right here in Northeast Philly. We have 25 members of our PennDOT team who are here right now. We have members of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Authority who are here, including our director, Randy Padfield, who joins me behind here. We also have members of DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, who are here to make sure that any hazardous materials are addressed. And as you heard the mayor reference, we're joined by several state representatives and senators. I want to thank them. They will make sure that whatever is needed for this community gets to this community. I also spoke earlier this evening with the United States Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Duffy, who offered his full support to Northeast Philly. And as the mayor alluded to, he has dispatched 4 members of the FAA to Philly, and there are 4 members of NTSB on their way as well. We have all the resources that we need. And again, as the mayor always says, one Philly, we are unified in our approach to deal with this emergency. And again, I'll just end by sharing my prayers, the prayers of my wife, Lori, our First Lady, and on behalf of 13 million Pennsylvanians, we are all here for Northeast Philly tonight in this very, very difficult moment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all. When we have additional information to report, we will come back and give another briefing. But now we want to let our federal, state, and local partners do their jobs and go to work. We'll report back to you when we have more information. Thank you all so very much for your patience and understanding. Thank you.
All right, you were just watching a news conference from Mayor Sherrell Parker and Governor Josh Shapiro. This was actually a short time ago that they were speaking. We were replaying what they had to say. The mayor saying that, as we've been reporting, they do not have a number of fatalities at this point, but the governor adding that we do know there will be loss in this tragic scenario. Also, we know the FBI, the FAA, and the NTSB just posting on X that an investigator is now on the scene here in Northeast Philadelphia tonight, and more team members are expected to arrive tomorrow.
It has been over 4 hours now since the reports came in. First, we heard of an explosion in fire near the Roosevelt Mall in Northeast Philly. Residents in that area reported their homes were shaking and a loud boom and an explosion. Then the video and these pictures started to come in. Debris fields of plane pieces. There was a crash of a Learjet carrying 6 people, including a child and a family member of that child. And that child, we're told, was a little girl. The governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, just described this as an awful aviation disaster. That's exactly what this is. Here's air traffic control.
Position 755. We have a lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we're trying to figure it out. For now, the field is going to be closed. Looks like there might have been an accident near Northeast Philly Airport. They are closing the airport indefinitely.
And here it is. 6:07 tonight. Moments after this Learjet 55 took off from the Northeast Philadelphia Airport, and then that fireball ensued. Many ring cameras, a lot of witnesses saw the aftermath, and you're looking at it as it happened just after 6 o'clock tonight, well over 4 hours ago. Now we want you to listen to this.
Just sheer terror, hearing that explosion, realizing that it was a plane that was going down. And you could hear the plane as it was just careening down towards the ground. You saw it in another angle from some other video that we have. going down at a 45-degree angle, essentially nose diving before exploding. And then we see that huge flash of light. As one witness was telling our reporter, it was like the night
turning into
turned to
day.
As that bright light filled the sky with that fireball and just sending shockwaves around that Northeast Philadelphia community, people not knowing what was going on. Our Carrie Corrado was telling us earlier that some people were in their cars, this is near the Roosevelt Mall, just left their cars and ran because they did not know what was going on. Clearly people shaken and in fear as you see the sparks just fly out, the debris flying as the plane went down just minutes after takeoff.
Officials are on the scene right now, and doing what they do under the cover of darkness. But once the sun rises in a matter of hours, it's going to be a whole different story as far as the scene that we will be looking at. But they're doing what they do right now. Many of the fire officials and police officers, some of them have left the scene, and you can tell by their body language. They're starting to walk away slowly now and letting the next phase take place. Members of the FBI are on the scene as well, the fire department as well. You're looking at a live picture right now, and we thank these men and women for doing all that they do in situations like this.
And just think about the challenges that these crews have been facing tonight. It's been rainy, it's damp, it's soggy at times. The rain was falling quite heavily. This is a wide debris field as well. Not only were there victims on board that flight, but we understand there were victims on the ground as well, as we saw homes on fire. We saw cars on fire. So at this point, there's no telling just how many people were injured, as officials are still trying to account for anybody who may have been impacted.
And many of the Philadelphians in that area were doing the best they could to help out, running to the scene to help people out the best way they can. And during that process, they saw some things they didn't want to see. They saw some things they did not want to see in an environment like this. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it just breaks your heart.
It really does.
The governor is saying we saw the best of Philly in this situation as neighbors were helping neighbors, stepping in to help. And right now you're seeing this is actually a portion of the plane that fell in the parking lot of the Roosevelt Mall. You can see the medical sign, and it looks like maybe a window or a door of the plane there. But that just speaks to the impact upon the plane falling to the ground, that it just burst apart, split apart into so many different parts as those people were on board that flight tonight.
Six people, 2 doctors, 2 pilots. A little girl who was a child patient who was, I guess I would imagine, I think we were told, receiving care here, and hopefully was on her way back to Mexico sooner, maybe tomorrow or so. But a family member of that little girl who was receiving the care was also on that plane. 6 people on that plane, and so far that is the only piece of that plane we have seen tonight, as that debris field, I'm sure, is very, very large.
It was a Learjet 55. It had taken off from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. It was heading to Springfield, Missouri at the time when the plane went down, just moments after takeoff. As you mentioned, Yuki, 2 pilots were on board. And right now, obviously, they're just very early in the investigation, but you wonder, what happened? Our Chris Van Cleve, our CBS News transportation correspondent, was saying that clearly the pilots lost control of the aircraft, but why that happened will take some time, as investigators are just getting to the ground there tonight.
And there's a possibility, Chris also said, that since this was an older Learjet, there might not be, hopefully there might not be a flight data recorder.
Right.
But otherwise, if there is, it's going to be difficult to find, but the NTSB is very good at what they do. They will find it and hopefully start providing some answers as to what happened here, but it's going to take some time, according to Chris as well.
Right.
Some preliminary reports could come out in 30 days, and this investigation might not be figured out for a year or so.
As for tonight, Chris told us that the debris that you see on the ground there, that trail of debris from the plane, that will be ultimately collected by investigators as they start the process of piecing all of this together and figuring out what exactly went wrong. But because the plane had just taken off, officials saying it's safe to assume that it was fully fueled, and that only adding to that explosion, and why we see that huge mushroom cloud of smoke and fire.
Some 7,000 pounds of jet fuel. And then the mushroom cloud, as we saw, the explosion, and officials rushing to the scene.
For those who were on the ground there, as we've been saying, I mean, you just can not imagine what was going through their minds watching all of this unfold. Literally, right in their front yards here. Just feet away from some homes impacted. We know some homes were on fire, according to the mayor. Several cars were affected, but at this point, we're still waiting to hear whether or how many fatalities, according to the mayor, came out of this.
We are hearing from people who saw what happened, who were there in that area. Here's what one witness told us just a short time ago.
First, I heard a loud boom, and I seen like the little spark out of my window. So I hurry up. I ran right over here to see what's going on. I just seen flames, smoke, and then I was chilling over there. And then I was with my friend and all that. We had seen like a little kid. He ran out the fire. I want to send my condolences out to anybody who lost their peoples and all that. For sure, it's just tragic. Definitely hurt. And it was crazy. Like me and my mom and my niece, we was just on the road 5 minutes before it happened, coming down off 95. Just on the road, and then 5 minutes later, that's when that happened. So it was like, dang, that could have been us.
How do you feel about everything that you witnessed tonight?
Tragic. It hurt. Even though it wasn't none of my people that got hurt and all that, it still hurt. It's crazy.
The city of Philadelphia is a melting pot, and everyone coming together tonight for one cause: to help one another.
Yeah, and there has been a huge response. The mayor saying that Philadelphia's police commissioner, Commissioner Kevin Bethel, called for help from state police. So we understand there were 45 state troopers who responded to the scene as well to pitch in to help with Philadelphia authorities. And as we know, the FBI, the FAA, now the NTSB on the ground as well, as they are continuing to assess the situation. But now, as we are now more than 4 hours into this, still a lot of questions remain, including, chief among them, how many people were actually impacted, injured, and possibly died in all of this.
Just looking at these pictures and the videos, it's unthinkable, unfathomable. This is unbelievable. Over 4 hours now, and most of this has subsided, but the effect is going to last a long time.
Absolutely.
A long time.
A devastating night for the city, indeed, that's for sure. And, as we've been saying, in light of what happened just a couple of days ago in Washington, D.C., it really shakes you to your core.
Oh, it really does.
To see this happening here in Philadelphia.
It really does.
Yeah.
Programming note, if you are just joining us, it is 10:36 now. And if you're looking for regularly scheduled programming, that's over on Philly 57. We're going to continue our live coverage of this tragic news. The crash of a Learjet 55 in Northeast Philadelphia. And then I would imagine start our newscast around 11 o'clock and tell you even more. But our reporters remain on the scene, trying to gather as much information as they can. They're talking to so many witnesses about what they saw, what they heard, and who's okay. Because a lot of these people, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of the residents in Northeast Philly saw some things that they will never forget.
Yeah. To recap, if you are just joining us, we have extended live coverage tonight of this plane crash that happened in Northeast Philadelphia. You see these horrifying images on your screen right now, a map showing where this happened. This is near Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. The plane was taking off just after 6 o'clock tonight from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. It was heading for Springfield, Missouri. This was a medical flight with a little girl, a family member, 2 pilots, and 2 doctors on board. She had just finished up treatment here in the Philadelphia area and was ultimately going to be making her way back home to Mexico when this flight, for whatever reason, the pilots, we understand, may have lost control of the plane and it nosedived to the ground. Calls coming in to authorities shortly after that plane took off just after 6 o'clock tonight.
And according to Grant Gilmore earlier, the weather was okay. So, the NTSB and the FAA will do the investigation. They will check the weather conditions, but we had an aviation expert on Arthur walk a little bit earlier, and everything happened so quickly and dramatically. He was leaning toward, did not say it was, but kind of leaning towards some type of malfunction in the plane. But once again, that's up to the NTSB and the FAA to determine what caused what you are looking at right now.
And the conditions tonight, it's been a rainy day this Friday. Our meteorologist, Grant Gilmore, was telling us earlier, it was a rainy day, but when the flight was taken off, he said there was sort of like a let up in the rain a little bit, but there was a lot of cloud cover at the time. But after the plane crashed, the rain did start to pick up. At one point, we saw from our reporters live shots that it was raining heavily as investigators were working the scene. So, that also posing a challenge to investigators as they are trying to assess the injuries, the debris field, and trying to figure out how to best get to those in need of help.
And this happened on the ascent, and it ended less than 5 miles away from the airport where it took off. When it was wheels up, moments after wheels up, tragedy strikes. Wow. That's unreal. Grant, you're back with us. You want to reiterate the conditions Janelle and I were just talking about, that the weather was okay at the time of lift, at the time the wheels were up.
Yeah, we were all kind of observing the weather throughout the day, and it never seemed like it got better, right? I mean, it was low cloud cover, light rain, nothing severe, like you said, Yuki. I mean, it was okay. It was manageable. It was certainly a wet day. Right at 6:07, the time of the crash, temperatures were at 48 degrees. And the radar shows that light green, that indicates light rain, with that yellow a little farther to the south, that a little bit more moderate rainfall. And then, Janelle, like what you said, a little bit later on, we saw some more moderate rain move through. This is a loop just over the last hour. So we're still dealing with some light rain. I'm going to bump this loop back to 4 hours here. So we're going back, this is the current time, and then we'll go back 4 hours as this begins to loop again. And you can see there were some periods of more moderate rainfall. And this was primarily during the rescue efforts, as all the first responders were arriving on scene. They were having to manage some of those less than ideal conditions. But just to talk about the weather conditions at the Northeast Philadelphia Airport right around the time of the crash. The crash was at 6:07. At 5:54, the report from one of the weather stations there at the airport was overcast skies with that cloud deck. So the bottom of that overcast sky was at 400 feet. We know the plane climbed up to above 1,200 feet. So we know that as that plane took off, it flew up into that low cloud cover and was probably dealing with low visibility through that.
They were worried about saving lives and getting people out of vehicles and out of homes. But this road is probably damaged and could be down for a few weeks. So that is just another thing I'm noticing as I look around here at the corner of Cottman and the Boulevard. And it is so eerily quiet now. All of the boulevard is shut down here. And you'll hear the occasional police horn. No more sirens, but it's eerily quiet for Roosevelt Boulevard and Cottman Avenue. And here is the number that keeps sticking out. Everything we're saying has the number 6 in it. This happens right after 6 o'clock. We have 6 confirmed fatalities. We have 6 homes that are damaged. We have 6 people at the hospital. And the number that probably might change will be those fatalities if people were killed in those cars. And you can think, when you're in a car, you have no expectation that anything's going to hit you from the sky, and you're not in expectation of all that jet fuel burning and then combining with your fuel. And you don't, maybe even if you get out of the car, you're in trouble. So that is the fear right now. And that's why city officials aren't even saying numbers. They're not even just talking about the 6 that the company has confirmed were on the plane, because they fear that there could be more people when they get to this scene. And you got medical examiner personnel coming out here as well. But just an awful scene to deal with, awful conditions, because now the rain's kicking up again. And I'm sorry if I've looked like a wet rat all night, but nobody's worried about how they look in this kind of story. This is just an awful, tragic story out here in Northeast Philadelphia. And they've had plane crashes linked for the people who are lifelong Northeast Philly residents. They've had links to this. We in our business had a link to Northeast Philly Airport when the great team from Action News, that's their home base, when they died at Christmas time last year. So tragedies have been linked to Northeast Philly Airport in the past, and sadly, this may be the worst one of all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just comes 2 days after the worst aviation accident in Washington, D.C. in, 25 years, 24 years. So
There's 67 lives 2 days ago, and now this. Steve, thank you very much. There are reports that this plane that took off just after 6 today was in Opelika, Florida, this morning, and took off from there this morning around 11 a.m. and got to Philly at 2 p.m. And so it flew up from Florida, this plane, earlier today, and landed at 2 p.m., eventually refueled. And that's when these folks boarded the plane at 6 and took off for whatever that's worth. The plane was on the move today and was not here overnight or anything like that. So,
right.
Yeah.
And we know it was a pediatric patient and her mom and 4 crew members that boarded that plane. They were coming from a hospital in Philadelphia after treating a life-threatening condition and headed back to their home in Mexico via Missouri, but didn't make it 30 seconds out because the plane crashed 30 seconds after taking off. And it's just unthinkable what the people in that area saw and felt when they looked to the sky and saw that ball of fire.
And as you pointed out earlier, and as the company has said, that these are seasoned pilots, described as a seasoned pilot and a seasoned co-pilot, as well as a physician and another flight paramedic. So these aren't inexperienced pilots operating planes like this. And
right, and they talked about the rigorous training that their staff goes through for these kinds of missions, because we're talking, this was a critically ill child. This is a life-saving mission, and this child was on its way back to Mexico. Yeah. We're told everyone aboard the plane was from Mexico, and they were on their way home.
Back to Tijuana, yeah. We heard from Mayor Parker, we heard from Governor Shapiro about really just trying to spread a unifying message that we're here for each other, and really didn't have a lot of facts about those taken to the hospital, fatalities on the ground. But here's what they had to say just moments ago, the governor and the mayor.
We are urging people, particularly those families who live in the surrounding area, to please stay home if possible. If you see any debris, and those who are conducting the investigations have repeated consistently, please do not touch anything because it is still an active investigation. Just call 911, please. New information that we want to share with you, that shelter is now.
All right, I'm finding something else here to watch. It's repeat, repeat, repeat. Okay. Hold on a minute. Sorry, stay with me. Let's see. I didn't know this guy that was on Law and Crime works on News Nation. Are you kidding me? I had no idea. That's crazy. All right, here we go.
Warrant officer. He was a former Black Hawk helicopter pilot. And Ron Basman, he is a retired FAA controller for over 30 years. He has worked and has managed controllers at airports across the country. And also with us is Captain Richard Levy. He was a captain at American Airlines for 41 years. He's an aviation expert. Captain, I'm going to thank you all for coming on. Captain, I'll start with you. Have you ever piloted a Learjet 55, or what can you tell us about a Learjet 55 and how it might be different than operating another kind of aircraft?
Hi, Jesse. Good evening. Our thoughts, of course, go out to the deceased, the family, and the local neighborhoods. I flew very large transports for American Airlines, but this Lear 55, I have some knowledge about it, but I've watched these videos, and a couple things I know right away is if you have an engine failure, any of these aircraft can fly single engine after takeoff. They're certified for that up to the gross weight of the airplane. The airplane, if they lost an engine, that I can eliminate that because the airplane went straight down. When an aircraft takes off and comes down, and of course, as you've already mentioned, is loaded with 6,000 or 7,000 pounds of jet fuel, there's the explosion. But more importantly, what would cause an aircraft to for the pilots to lose control of it? What comes to mind to me, again, no facts, I want to be very clear, weight and balance. On the Lear 55, weight and balance is very critical. Not saying that's the fault. It's too early. I know you know that. But before takeoff, you have a captain and a first officer. On this airplane, you had the captain, first officer, 2 doctors, the patient, and a family member. In any event, before takeoff, generally, but not always, the first officer does the pre-flight walk around and supervises the fueling. It could be the captain. We of course don't know that now. In any event, in the Lear 55, what I do know is weight and balance. That's the weight of the aircraft, and almost as important, if not more important, is the balance, what we call the center of gravity. And the fueling of the Lear 55 has to be done carefully so that the center of gravity is correct. If it was not done correct, hypothetically, since we don't know, and they take off with the airplane, the weight and balance off, this is what happens to an airplane. You get it airborne because of thrust and what we call ground effect, the air flowing underneath the wings. You get it airborne, and then you lose control of the airplane, and it comes straight down.
That may be one of the possibilities that they're looking at. And hopefully, again, we'll get more answers as the hour progresses. Ron, I want to go to you. Let's talk about air traffic control here. I would imagine, even for private aircraft like this, a medvac, what is the relationship, the communication between air traffic control? Do they get some sort of priority if they're medvac? And let me also ask you this. If there's reports about a call sign, there were call signs in terms of this was a medevac. What information will we be gleaning from air traffic control at this point?
Well, typically in a medevac flight, they're going to get priority. And from a call sign standpoint, that's not necessarily something in a civilian aircraft that we would know right away. It could be operating under a typical, what we call N number, which is a U.S. registration number. And even though it is a medical flight and everything, unless it was put in the remarks of the flight plan and everything, a lot of times the controller wouldn't even know unless it was, unless the pilot in command drew the attention to that status to the controllers.
Philip, I wanted to ask you about this. We are getting early reports, conflicting reports, again, this is so new, about whether any of the people on board would have had the ability to evacuate. Do you know anything about that, about whether there'd be an ability to evacuate this aircraft in any way?
Now, first of all, let me say that I'm a helicopter pilot by trade and career, but I will tell you that with that nose down attitude, I tend to think that that aircraft didn't have any hydraulic power because it came nose down. So to me, it looks like a loss of hydraulics. And with the nose down attitude that it had, I don't think there was any chance of anybody getting out of that aircraft, whether it had a parachute or not. It was in a straight nose down descent on fire.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen.
Okay, Dan. All right, let's see what else. Yeah, it's pretty sad. All these people are trying to blame Trump. Has nothing to do with Trump, so stop it. Let's see, anything? Here, look at this until I find.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Yeah, man, she's still hanging. Déjame comer a los
Oh, shit.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Oh my God! Oh my God! La ilaha illallah! There's a plane, bro!
All right, welcome back, everybody, to our continued coverage of this plane crash out in Northeast Philadelphia near the Roosevelt Mall. The Associated Press is now reporting that this was a medical transport jet, this Learjet 55. It had a child patient with 5 others on board, which, if that is the case, it has already made this tragic circumstance even more heartbreaking. President Donald Trump reacting to tonight's horrific crash, posting this on social media, quote, "So sad to see the plane go down in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. More innocent souls lost. Our people are totally engaged. First responders are already being given credit for doing a great job. More to follow. God bless you all." And I want to bring on right now, we have Philadelphia Council member Anthony Phillips, who is actually with us live right now on the phone. He is at the scene of the crash. Councilman, thanks so much for coming on. What are you seeing? What are you hearing right now?
You know, right now, this part of Philadelphia is a very congested area, highly dense, and the neighbors are just in disbelief. There's neighbors that have just said to me, you know, I thought it was a bomb. I thought it was America was on attack. He said, you know, and then one neighbor mentioned the idea of like, you know, what are we doing with our aviation right now? You know, are we really finding ways to really make sure people are safe? You know, so there's a lot of shock, there's a lot of disbelief, and there's a lot of concern. And just for the viewers who are listening, and you know, this part of Philadelphia is where the plane crash is a highly used roadway during the day, evening, all day long. There's thousands of cars that go across this roadway every day. So you can imagine the fear that people have, you know, right now here in Northeast Philadelphia. And so right now there's a lot of squad cars, you know, aviation's here, you know, the feds are here. They're blocking off everything. And they're also trying to, you know, piece together what is going to come from, you know, information. So from all the debris that's happening. So, yeah, and people are out here still just in disbelief checking out what's going on.
And again, that echoes what we heard from Mayor Parker earlier, who basically said if you see debris, do not touch it. Obviously, it's a key piece of evidence, but also could be presenting a danger as well. Councilman Phillips, let me ask you this. Do you have any assessment that you can give us on the extent of damage that you see, and also what the latest report would be on casualties? You might not have that information at this point, but you might be able to see at least the extent of the damage to homes and houses in that area.
Yeah. The currently, it looks like there's a few homes that have been impacted by this. And I mean, in terms of it, one house looks really damaged, like it's over, it's done with. And then the other damage is on right there at the mall. I mean, the mall itself is completely the parking lot has completely been damaged as a result of this plane crash. And what I've also heard is that when the crash happened, residents were saying that were in the mall at the time, it felt like an earthquake. And then they looked outside, it was an explosion. So people were in this state of like, oh my gosh, is America under attack? And a lot of people's first reaction is like, does this have to do with, you know, the federal government and aviation policies? You know, people started immediately associating this currently with the administration. But, you know, as more details are coming out, we're finding out that, you know, we just have an aviation problem in the United States, and now it's trickling down to, you know, everywhere, you know, and that's really unfortunate.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below.
All right. Well, I'm going to end this. Praying for everybody in Philly. Horrible. Just horrible. Oh. Okay, good night.